up, guys? It's Dave here at the Blind Spot with my little buddy, Charlie Horky. How you doing, bud?
I'm well today, sir. How are you?
Oh, you don't need to call me sir. Come on. I should be calling you sir. Oh, man. So some people know you, some people don't. Quick introduction about Charlie is he was the owner of CLS in Vegas, based in Vegas, right?
Well, actually, I created CLS in Los Angeles.
Okay. Moved
to New York, then Vegas, and then San Francisco and Aspen.
There you go.
So that was 1980. And then 2005, I left the company, stayed in Las Vegas, and Empire was formed, and they merged the two companies, which is now known as EmpireCLS.
So you've been in the, I should have said CLS was a transportation company, kind of like Urban BCN, but obviously on a different scale. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But so you've been in the business, what, 40 years, 30 years?
40 years.
40 years, huh? Crazy.
I was 20. I'm 60.
Wow. So let's talk about you. Tell people about you that may not know you.
Oh man, you just have to Google me and you'll get all you need.
All right, give us the highlights. Talk about what got you into the business. Why did you choose to stay in the business? And then we'll talk about some of the stories you've got.
That's a good question. There wasn't a big business plan. I was 19 or 20, and I was working for a rent-a-car company in Los Angeles called Budget Rent-A-Car. This particular Budget Rent-A-Car, the owner was a fellow named Mark Fogel, and he was the one that pioneered the idea that people would want to rent. Before then, people would rent a Buick or a station wagon or a passenger van, a rental car. He was the one that came up with the idea in Beverly Hills that people would want to rent Mercedes-Benz, Alfa Romeos, Trans Ams, Rolls Royces, Ferraris, and his clientele was all music entertainers, rock stars, everybody. And I worked there, and I met one of his friends, and I was 20 years old, and his buddy was 21, and he said, "Hey, is there a business you'd like to be in that we could do together?" And I had worked for a limousine company the summer before, washing cars and hanging out with the drivers. So that immediately qualified me as a limousine operator.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
What was the first car?
It was that easy. And so I said, "Hey, how about a limo company?" He said, "Okay, I'll buy the car and you go find a business and we'll be partners." And that was the start.
What was your first car?
A 1977 Cadillac Formal.
Oh, I don't even know if I know what those look like.
Well, Cadillac made a production series car, if you Google it, called a Formal, and it was a limousine that had a beautiful big back seat and then two pull-up jump seats, and it had a glass partition, and those were the limousines of the day until probably there were other stretch limousines, but not mass produced until the early 1980s. A company in Los Angeles called Starlight Limousine. They were huge, and they made these limos by a custom guy, and they were called race frames. And if you had a race frame, you were the shit. And he had about 40 or 50 of these things. And then DeBryan came into space, and Executive and O'Gara, and so they morphed over to stretch limousines because they were more utilitarian. So you had stretch limousines and formals. No one knew what a town car was. I mean, you weren't using a town car, and it wasn't until I think 1984 they stopped mass producing the Cadillac Formal, and that went away. And then the limousines pretty much took over through the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then probably in the late 80s, early 90s, it was that, conspicuous consumption of the 80s. People were kind of down on that. And the town car moved into the space of, sedan work. And limousines hung there for a while in the 90s, or all through the 90s, I should say, especially in Las Vegas. And then in the late 90s, I think we had a lot to do with it, but in the late 90s, people see in New York City, New York was the only town where you had like chauffeur-driven cars as a necessity. If you're Jimmy Buffett and you came to Los Angeles, he would have a Mercedes convertible delivered to the hotel. I'd pick him up at the hotel, bring at the airport, bring him to the hotel, but that was it. And then he would drive himself around because what do people want to do in LA? Put the top down and, do their thing.
Yep.
New York, on the other hand, is a chauffeur-driven environment. Mm-hmm. And so the point here is that the people of superpower, the Tommy Mottolas of the world, the leaders of industry,
right?
They were the ones that went into private Mercedes-Benz. It was kind of a class separation.
Okay.
So if you had a private chauffeur-driven S-Class, you were the stuff. SUVs hadn't really taken off yet. It wasn't really until, I want to say, the body style change in 2007.
Okay.
That the SUV really took off.
Got it.
In 2007. But anyway, we started with a Cadillac Formal.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, in 1977.
So you said you ran CLS until 2005?
I did.
Okay. At your peak, give me some highlights. Business. How much business were you guys doing? How many cars did you have?
The best way to tell you that would be by 1990, I was doing $1 million a year and I had 10 cars. And by 2000, I was doing $70 million a year and I had 700 cars.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in 2005, sold it, took some time off.
Well, that would be a nice way to say it.
I mean, listen. Okay, let's just I'll put what it is. You spent some time in the slammer. Big deal. Okay, life goes on.
That was years before. No, I was shown the door in 2005. They were done with me. Yeah, we had investment bankers in our midst in 2003, and they hated me, and I couldn't stand them. For those of you that take investment banking money and have any idea of remaining the CEO of your company, don't sign unless you can understand that the CEO of your company is going to be somebody that probably you've never met. That'll be like some guy that ran a company like Calcan Dog Food, or somebody that ran a $200 million company that could speak Wall Street. Yeah, that wasn't me. And so anyway, they got tired of me, to put it simply, and I got tired of them. And they said, all right, well, you can hit the road. And because of the licensing in Las Vegas was so complicated and in my name, the severance package for me was, you can keep Las Vegas. Just go away. Just go away and go away quietly. It was kind of fell under, hey, don't go away mad, just go away. Mm-hmm. And so, I was so tired of these guys and worn out that I was thrilled to get to go to Las Vegas. And that's when they bought the Empire company, which David Seelinger was working at. Okay. It was owned by a trust. And they went to him and said, hey, we'll buy this out. We're going to mush these two companies together, and you're going to be the new king. And
so what was Empire at that time? What size was Empire?
That's a good question. You'd have to ask them, but they were doing where we were doing like around $60-70 million of business. He was probably doing 35 or 40.
Okay.
But he was in they use this word space. It's kind of a fun word to use.
Right.
He was in a totally different space. He was not music entertainment. He was trying to break into that. He was big time corporate, big time pharmaceutical, KMPG. I mean, real really big time pharmaceutical. New York, he would do like 800 rides a day. I mean, he was all low budget stuff.
Right.
But that's what they did, and they pushed the two companies together.
So it built once the merger happened, it was a pretty beautiful company, just on its own 2 feet.
From the outside looking in, yeah, you bet.
Right.
Yeah, you bet.
On the inside, it was a mess.
Well, I left him a mess. I
right.
mean, there was no doubt about that.
Right.
So he, quickly figured out that he'd been fucked, and he went back to the investment bankers and said, "Hey, you guys got to give us another $4 million to clean up this mess I did not create."
Right.
And they fought him for a minute, and then they gave him the dough. And he turned it into a button-down Fortune 500, company that's basically owned by banks, and he, does a great job at performing at that level within that structure.
Right. Right. So after that, what did you do?
What did he do?
No, what did you do after 2005? What happened next?
I'm sorry. Did you ask me, or what? Are you asking him?
No, I'm asking you. After 2005. Yeah.
Oh,
He's not. Nobody else is here with us. It's just us.
I was in Las Vegas and gleefully so. The company was doing about $13 million a year of the other money we were making. And, I went and saw my friend who was the chairman of Bellagio at the time. And I went to him and told him, where I'd been and what happened. And he said to me, he goes, "Are you ready to get back to work?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay." And, that was during the surge in business, 2005, 2006, 2007. So by 2007, I built it from 13 million to 30 million. And I thought I was going 50. I mean, like, no problem. I'm going 50. You see, you have to understand is that Las Vegas is nothing like you do. I mean, and it was nothing like I did. I mean, when I first got there in 1995, if I can digress for a second, I had no idea that like you couldn't get a 3-hour minimum in Las Vegas. Like, for a limousine, like they were talking about 1-hour minimums. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no way.
Yeah.
And so I learned really quickly that because of the small geographic proximity to the Strip and the airport, that the idea was to get as many 1-hour charges as you could within the hour.
Got it. And
since there was only 3,000 taxis in the town of 175,000 hotel rooms, which the cab operators before Uber enjoyed about a $400 million industry in Las Vegas. The best business to be in the limousine industry was not the business that you and I have come to know all these years. The best business was the alternative to a taxi.
Right.
So figure this, of the $30 million a year I was doing, 10 million of it was just guys wanting to get off the curb at MGM that had $50 in their pocket.
So it was very quick, like basically nothing. You jump in the car, drop them off, and go back.
Yeah. You talk to guys like Chris Hundley back in the day. A limousine had a bar that had glasses and napkins prepared and all kinds of goodies that the chauffeur would excel at. In Las Vegas, you didn't do that at all. That was ridiculous. First of all, it was against the law to provide liquor.
Okay.
So if you picked up a guy at the airport in a limo, and he wanted booze, if you had a permit from the NTA like Presidential did, to provide champagne service, guy wears a tux, gives a woman a rose or roses for all the women in the car, or champagne. That was a service you could provide. But to have booze in the car, you needed to take the dude to a liquor store and let him buy his own booze. And then when he got out of the car, this is insane, but when the guy got out of the car to go into a restaurant, he couldn't leave the booze in the car legally. He'd have to take it with him. Wow. Yeah, no, there's some rules.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, the point being is that these limousines were just used to just haul people. I mean, the 10 pack was the most valuable car you could have, more bodies. And the reason for that was because the strip clubs in Las Vegas would pay a per head bounty.
Okay.
So you didn't drive a limousine because you want to drive a limo. You were there because you want to deliver people to a strip club. Right. So the doorman puts 10 people in a 10 pack and the strip club's paying $50 a head. So there's 500. You got to give the doorman half. You're down to 250. Probably have to break off the guy that put the people in the car. So you make $200. But you do that 10 times a night. So the guys that were driving for me in like 2005 through 2012, these guys were wearing $1,000 suits, driving BMWs and Mercedes, living in $500,000 homes, and killing it, making money. Yeah. Wow.
So crazy.
Yeah, they're making big money. All those same guys in Los Angeles or New York, they starved. And the guys that from LA and New York that would come here, they didn't have a clue because what they were good at didn't prevail here.
Right.
Yeah,
so 2012 comes around.
Man, that's a big jump.
Well, you said 2005 to 2012, you were running the business, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, there was lots of things that went on between 2005 and 2012.
Oh, we're going to get to those. We're going to get to them. I'm giving a timeline.
You want to go up and back.
Yeah.
In 2012, it's hard to talk about 2012 without kind of moving through 2007. As I said, we're doing great. I mean, we had a $9 million EBITDA.
Okay.
And in a market space where it's a regulated environment and there's no way in hell you can get in, you couldn't create what I had.
Right.
The multiples were insane. I mean, you think you own a company that's worth $50 million solely because nobody else can create it in the contracts you have. So then the economy takes a dump in 2008. So when you're built to do 30 and it costs you 21 to make the 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things don't look good when stuff goes 26, 22, 21, 18, 15. Gee, those are all good numbers, but if you're really, really, really levered like we were, it's not good. And so I was trying to figure out how I was going to pull this off. Okay. And in doing so, I caught the attention of the federal government, who decided that they would give me the ultimate timeout. And I got arrested for racketeering because they couldn't get me on selling drugs or prostitution, because that wasn't what I was doing. So although they thought I was, right. I guess it looked like it in Las Vegas. So anyway, everything came to a screeching halt in 2012. And so it took about 2.5 years to go to prison. I got a 46-month sentence. And that was actually a good thing, to tell you the truth. And I went there in, I want to say June or July of 15. Okay. And I went through the RDAP program, which gave me a year off and good time and all that kind of stuff. And I did 22 months. And I got out in July of 17.
So you made a statement that it was a good thing. Do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, it would be hard for maybe somebody. I mean, you'll probably get this. Maybe the viewer will, but probably not. Sorry about that. When you're in Las Vegas and you're swinging the bat as big as I was, I mean, over 150 cars, Learjet, plenty of money, hot chicks, a lot of drugs, and you're rolling with the upper 3% of the who's who in town, it was a difficult pill to raise your hand and say, my company's sick, I fucked this up, and I need help. Now that would have been the appropriate thing to do.
Right.
But when you're a guy that's been swinging for the fences for the last 25 years, 30 years, and always coming out on top, you think you can handle it. You think that you're going to be able to figure it out. So I did some stuff that was kind of stupid, and so when they arrested me, in hindsight, when I look back on the whole experience, there was nobody else that was going to stop me. There's nothing really more finite than getting an indictment that says the United States of America versus Charles Horky. I mean, that doesn't get any worse than that. That's not like Dave Uzell. That would be bad, but I mean, right. It's the United States of America. In that sentence, it covered all you guys.
Right.
And so
everybody,
all 375 million people.
That's awesome. That's a good line.
Yeah. So it just came to a screeching halt. I mean, done. And so they said, "Oh, don't worry." The judge at the time said to me when they let me go, they said, "Oh, don't worry. We know you can still operate your business." Well, it's hard to operate your business when the feds took all your computers.
Right.
Oh, well, we're going to give them all back to you. Yeah, months later in pieces. But if it wasn't for the people that worked for me at the time, that had been with me for a long time, in spite of what happened, they came to work the next day and said, "Look, we got to figure this out." In spite of the fact that the MGM Mirage properties, which I had all of at the time, had dropped me, obviously.
Right.
For the next 2.5 years before I went to prison, we had to figure out how to make a living. And we did. And I learned a lot. But as far as putting a stop to me, it's like, yeah, what else? You're indicted. It's the worst time in the world. It was worse than coming out of prison. Then before you go, when you get indicted, you've signed a plea deal and you're going to go to prison.
Right.
You're in limbo. No one's going to do anything for you. I mean, people were nice to me and sure, come in, have dinner, we'll comp it, whatever. I mean, we existed, but there were certainly really nice people that were certainly gracious and super nice. But yeah, you're lamed up. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You're screwed. No one's going to bank on you. No, I mean, and to that end, I didn't go out and borrow any money from anyone to try to help myself because I had no way to pay anybody back. My future, as I knew it, was at a standstill.
Right.
So when you finally go, and you realize after 2.5 years of worrying about going to prison,
right,
that you actually, you go to Club Fed, and you get there and you look around and you go, this is what I was worried about? I mean, like, it's nothing. I mean, it's not like being, as they call it, behind the fence.
Right.
It's not like being locked in a jail cell every night at 9 o'clock until the next morning with someone you can't stand.
Right.
I mean, it was like being at a resort. It was a resort that you couldn't leave, but there was like no gun towers, no fences. I could have walked out at any time and walked home if I wanted to. I mean, there was no one would have chased you down and said, "Oh, we're going to shoot you." I mean, none of that shit.
Right. Where were you?
What I was at a place called Sheridan, Oregon. Sheridan, Oregon.
Okay.
And it was pretty. All 4 seasons, weather wasn't terrible. Bald eagles and stuff, and it's a walk of life. Everybody's there. I mean, you walk into a Starbucks today, it's the same people.
Right.
Just every slice of life. And I went in there weighing like 240 pounds. Hell of a time trying to get on that upper bunk the first night. God damn. That took about 3 attempts of just trying to get my belly over the top to be able to get in the damn thing. And you've never heard snoring until you go to prison. I mean, oh my God. I mean, like, you have never heard snoring until you go to prison. It's horrifying. But
and it's so funny.
But the people there, they embrace you. Your race claims you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very political.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, got in shape, went through the drug program, had plenty of time to think, and while I was there, I thought about what I'm going to do next. And the idea, I think it would be daunting for anybody that wasn't in business to all of a sudden, after 30, 25 years, go back to Los Angeles and post a little sign out front and go, I'm back, I'm in business.
Right.
I knew I couldn't get the critical mass to do that, nor did I have any money. I was totally broke. I mean, like broke. And so I came up with the concept of SLADE Services.
So let's talk about. Tell people about SLADE.
SLADE is a reservation management company. It's similar to the company Savoya or LimoLink. We're not a TNC, but we're a company that you would hire for ground transportation, and we will provide solutions, provide your business for you, like I do with you.
Right.
And we manage that experience for the clientele. And a guy like you, it's your company, you're exceptional, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but your guys are good. They don't need much management, but most of these people don't have the idea. When you're dealing at the level I'm dealing at, which is the 1% of the 1%. I mean, figure that when you go on the internet and you type in San Francisco limousine, you personally at Urban probably don't want everyone that could possibly call you, but there are a few. In my space, there's nobody. I mean, there's 99.9% of the people can't afford it. It's a waste of time. The only people that I get to use me are people that know my history, know me, like what I do, understand I know what I'm doing, and it's a complete word of mouth business.
Yeah.
So I feel that the reason why people use me is that I can get better service out of the industry than they can going direct.
And what do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you want me to be painfully honest?
I don't give a shit. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Well, one is, I've been doing this for 40 years. So, I mean, I have a huge amount of history and I have a huge amount of experience from the beginning to now. And those people don't have that experience. They simply don't. And the other thing is people talk about giving 5-star service. Where'd they learn that? I mean, like, is there a book that says how to provide 5-star service when you're on a limo company? I mean, the problem with the limousine company, and I'll make a point, is that, you were a police officer. I don't know what you decided to do when you were a child. At what point did you say police officer? But when you are a child and they have these boxes of what you're going to be when you grow up, army man, doctor, nurse, banker, lawyer, policeman. But there's never a box that says limo company owner.
Right.
Just a bunch of eclectic people, you know, from jail to Yale, all of us. And I mean, you know, I mean, they don't know what they're doing. The service they want to give you is their brand of what they think good service is.
Right.
Every one of these guys has an idea of how they want to provide a service. And the reality of it is that the level that I do business with the clientele that I do, they know that I know what really needs to be done and how it needs to be done from soup to nuts. And so that's what they're paying for. And they know that and the other thing is they're just calling me. They're going on 10 city tour. They don't have to Google 10 different companies and find a comfort level, right?
Right.
So they know I'm going to take care of it. And they know I'm going to find only the best people in the world to do this business. And I'm lucky. I have the best people in the country to do what I do. I mean, they're leaps and bounds better than everybody else.
Right. What did you know coming out of jail that this was what you're going to do? Or were you thinking in jail, do I go back into the limo business? Do I need to go into something else, not to fall back to my old ways? Like, do you come out of jail saying I'm different than when you first walked in the door?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know that you hear the stories where, you know, and obviously you fed jail and, you know, the other, you know, the state jails are a lot different, you know, the type of crimes. So the return policy is, you know, not a good number for most people.
I wasn't a career criminal. I mean, like, you know, a lot of people that are career criminals that get out of jail, they're just out on vacation until they go back.
Right.
That wasn't my deal. I wasn't a career criminal. I'd had a career of, I mean, gosh, I don't know, 30 years of business before I got in trouble. And like one brief moment in time, you know, I made some poor choices. You know, it's, yeah, no, I wasn't worried about that at all. I wasn't, my poor choices were out of what I thought was a necessity to try to fix a problem that was way over my head. And had I not chosen or made those bad choices, I still had not been I was not qualified. And no matter how much money I would have been given at the time to try to correct the problem, even the best businessmen, and I'll say use a guy like Brent Bell, you know, in Las Vegas, Brent Bell could run Coca-Cola if he needed to. I mean, you know, a real button-down, conservative, solvent, no debt kind of guy.
Right.
Even he went through millions of dollars trying to stay in business. I mean,
right. Everybody goes through.
Yeah. I mean, and so I chose a stupid path. To answer your question, when I got out of jail, was I going to, you know, see if I could get a data bank full of American Express cards and start smashing them to try to live my life? No. I mean, you know.
Did you know that you want to get back into the limo business?
It's the only thing I know how to do.
Right. That's what makes sense.
I knew I wasn't going to be an operator. But in the sense of owning hardware,
right.
But I had faith that that I was better than everybody else that was out there, and that if I could get some traction, that I could provide people a service that they would, it would be expensive, but they would deem it valuable, and so far I've been right.
So we're gonna dive into some stuff, and I hope you know, you can tell me to shut up because I don't care if you do, but I'll still talk. But over the past couple months, obviously, we've been going through the COVID-19 pandemic. Everything is like our industry, hospitality, travel, has never seen anything like this. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, business is down for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, what you have. And you've gone onto Facebook to be more active in the community of our you know, business, and some people like it, some people don't. We're going to get to that too. But when you came out of jail first, what kind of welcome did you get from the industry that you were a part of for 30 years prior to that, or 30 years prior to that, 35? Was it a warm welcome, or did you feel like you had to start all over?
Well, I did have to start all over from a standpoint of starting all over because I didn't have any money. I was broke.
Right.
So yeah, I started over, but as far as no, I didn't have any issues. No, I mean, you know, I was fortunate enough to gain some traction with a really special client of mine that had a very good book of business, and they needed that book of business taken care of. So by the mere fact that I had a big name in my midst and I was ushering that business, what are they going to do? Say no? I mean, it qualified me instantaneously. I mean,
so I understand that, but where I'm getting at is there are a lot of haters in the world. A lot of people will call you ego driven, will call you a bully, as you were called a few days ago, which I will not agree with at all in the context of that post. And I've said my stuff to this person that wrote it to you. But
thank you.
I think it's important for people to get to really know you, to really I didn't even know who you were until Butch Hanky, said, "Oh, I have a old friend of mine who wants to move into maybe doing work with you." And then we talked the first time, and I automatically, and I will say this, I don't care, I really liked you. I liked your personality because you were just a no bullshit kind of person. And I've always been that no bullshit kind of person. My dad raised me this way. This is what I'm going to be. You like it, you like it. You don't. Good. But there are a lot of people that don't like your personality.
Yeah.
So
is there a question there? There
is going to be a question.
Okay.
What do you think? Why do you think these people are coming at you the way they are?
There's such a minority of people that's kind of insignificant to even talk about. I mean, there was one guy that rubbed me the wrong way over the weekend on a post that was out there, and to tell you the truth, I wanted to see the validity of what you're saying right now, and I don't know, 100 likes and 78 comments to the good against one fucking idiot. I mean, I don't give a shit about that.
Do you consider yourself a shit starter? No. What do you?
I mean, listen. There's the guys on Facebook, and he says he's having problems with his door locks on his 07 sedan. Well, forget what the problem he's having. Who cares about that? It's 2020.
Right.
He's driving a car that's like 13 years old. And I mean, I get why he might be driving that car. No problem. But my flippant response, I felt like responding was, maybe you should buy a newer car. That's all I said.
I think a lot of people agree with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. But this guy, for whatever reason, decided that, why do I have to be an a-hole? Why do I have to bully this guy? And I kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice here, but I'm going to see if I'm that much of an asshole. I'm going to see if I'm that much of a bully. Let's see what the community says when I tell them that, hey, you know what, I don't need to be a part of your group. I'm quite comfortable being who I am without you.
Right.
And, that wasn't the response I got.
No, you didn't. And I think, you could look at your secondary post to it or your question, and people could take it as, oh, he wants to get his ego stroked. But what you were trying to do is just figure out, am I wasting time by sitting here telling people stories and giving my advice of 40 years in this business?
Well, that's the little-minded people, man. I mean, that comes with this industry. I mean, we got an industry full of rocket scientists. I mean, there's no doubt about that. What you got here is about a lot of heartfelt, passionate folks that are probably doing the only thing that they can do successfully. I mean, God love those people. I'm not putting them down at all. I'm doing what I can do successfully.
Right, exactly.
There's nobody telling me to come down and be a freaking brain surgeon,
right.
or offering my opinion about such.
Right.
But I get it. But gosh, I lost my train of thought, and I apologize. I had a point.
It's all right. We'll move on. What
I was going to say was, yeah, sure. Was it a bit of an ego stroke? Sure. But that wasn't my interest. My interest was basically to try to push this fella into a box, right, and say, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And at the end of the day, and you all can shit on me for saying that, but at the end of the day, I don't make this shit up. And the people that comment on what I have to say or how I feel about this industry seem to be pretty damn enamored with it. Like the expertise, like the ability that some guy with 40 years of pretty good success that they can call and go, what do you think about this? I mean, call a guy like Brandon Stein. You don't think he didn't call me up and say, what's going on? Ask a guy like Robert Alexander, marvelously, wonderfully successful. He takes my phone call. He wants to hear what's going on. Right. He likes my suggestion. Anyway, the point being is that this particular guy just pissed me off. I'm just thought, I'm not here for your bullying. I'm not here for your, telling me that I'm an asshole. The reason why I'm in the limo growth group is because I like Bill Faith. And when this whole pandemic thing, to go full circle,
right.
When the whole full circle thing with but the pandemic was that people are shitting in their pants. Like, hey, what are we going to do now? I don't need to shit in my pants. I don't have a bunch of cars to pay for. I mean, right. I get it. I mean, I got my wife to pay for. Maybe it's the same thing, but not really. But the point being is that he did that podcast with me, and he said it went over really, really well, and he got a big response, and he enjoyed it. And I said, what can I do to help further this along? Because people are scared, man. I mean, they're really scared,
Yeah, they are. They still are scared.
Well, they're really scared.
Right.
And I said, hey, you know what? I could just talk about my experience. And maybe, there is no secret sauce. I'm not a big believer in that. There's no secret sauce.
Right.
And maybe I could just talk about my experience. And if it'll humor them, great. If it'll motivate them, great. If it'll inspire them, great. No problem. And that was the whole thing. It wasn't because I had nothing better to do. It wasn't because I thought that I needed a bunch of people to stroke me about how wonderful I am or I am not. Right. It was simply something that me and Bill came up with, and Bill said, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. Keep doing it.
Well, I think, honestly,
that's totally it.
I think that's, this is where you just can't judge a book by its cover. And it's such a stupid fucking cliche saying, but the reality is that, like, I talk to you almost every day, or maybe every other day, through text message or call, because I want people to be willing to help me grow my business. And last week you called me and said, hey Dave, take a second, let's talk about this $10 thing. And then you started doing the numbers, and I was like, oh God, that's $1 million a year, or we came up with $800,000 a year. And this little thing that, I may have thought of, but not really thought the process out. So I go to you for advice from your experience. And I think a lot of people enjoy hearing the stories of when things were good and bad, because then they don't feel so alone in this by themselves. Because I think a lot of things that I've talked to, not just in this industry, in a lot of industries, everybody's freaking out. And they almost feel like it's so easy to say, well, it wasn't my fault. The pandemic's not my fault. But that's still not going to solve the problem that your cash flow is trickling away just to keep the lights on.
Yeah, well, I don't think it trickled away at all. I think the door just got shut and the water's not there anymore, and that's what's panicking everybody. Right. And I heard of a lot of big operators, you and guys down, a lot of guys that were, I shouldn't say rewarded, but they got paid attention to with regard to money to be able to hopefully make it through this. But there's a lot of guys. I know a dude in LA. I told you about my friend Norman. He shit in his pants. He didn't get nothing. They didn't give him a damn thing. Nothing. And of course, you were kind enough to say, yeah, no problem. I'll put them on my list. But your list isn't worth shit right now because no one's calling. So
exactly.
I said to him, I said, listen, man, if you ever get worried, call me. You need me to make your rent payment, I'll make it. Don't worry about it. I mean, I know the guy for 35 years. What are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really scary time, and I don't really want to dive into the affiliate shit and people not paying their bills. I mean, because I think when everything started, we were all like, fuck, these companies are not paying their bills. They're leaving everybody high to dry. But as time went on, I started to realize, and I think you made a post about it on the limo growth, but there was a point where I turned to one of my financial guys and said, I kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing. Because the reason is, obviously they want to pay the bills. It's not like anybody really wants to carry debt. Any business owner, they understand that there will be some debt you carry that you are out of control. You don't have control of it, especially like cars and stuff like that. You never want to owe your partners money. Now, well, I don't. I'm just speaking on my own. So, but then you've got a situation where you've got 500, 600, 700 employees, and you have to get them all on a phone call and say, hey, guess what? We're laying everybody off. because we can't even afford to keep those people there. Now, I don't know these companies, what their books look like, their profit and loss. I don't know any of that stuff. But a part of me understood the fact that like I would want to keep my team intact as long as I can. And if that means I owe somebody money, the fact is that eventually we hope things will start turning around. And then you can start paying those bills off, which only have probably gotten worse over time. But it's just kind of it's such a sticky subject.
Well, I'll make it unsticky for you. We're only seeing what you just talked about because of the situation that we are all in, which, is a historic moment. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And it's easy to point the finger and say, you should do this and you should do that.
Right.
But here's what I think. And that, all the limousine company guys might get pissed at me about it. But I don't believe in the direct bill bullshit. I don't believe in the 45-day pay and the 50-day, 60-day pay. I don't believe in that at all. And let me just tell you quick, you talk about stories. Let me tell you something. When I owned CLS, going back like 2000 or so, I had not managed the company's funds well. Who are my teachers? Rock stars. I mean, if I did anything, I emulated them pretty well, with regard to my own lifestyle. But the point being is this. When NetJets used to call me for cars and I would call the limousine industry for cars, I'd get turned down because I owed them hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? They would turn me down. And the very same operator, NetJets, would call Savoya. And Savoya would call the same dude in the same city and they would do the job. And the reason why they do the job is Savoya paid right then and there. Right. And what I learned in doing this was the only way I could be successful is if I paid everybody right here, right now.
Right.
There's no such thing as a receivable. I don't want to have receivables for my clients. I've lost some over that. Right. And I don't want to have receivables with companies. Now, yeah, I have absolutely, in the last 6 months, got myself in a little bit of a jam with a couple of guys. And, I called them up, but I communicated with them and said, hey, here's what's going on. And they were cool about it and they got paid off. No problem. We're done. Right. But by and large, and I'm picking on EmpireCLS, but I don't like the way they treat their vendors. It's always under heavy hand and threat of we will not use you. There is no relationship there. They'll tell you they love you and they might love you, but that lasts as long as, the wind could blow. Or they might hear that, oh my God, you're talking to Charlie Horky and you could lose $2 million worth of business that is keeping you in business. Here's my point. They need to be responsible and pay their goddamn bills just as fast as I pay mine. And so they're owned by banks, or not owned by banks, but they do big business with banking. You bigger companies are gonna have to figure out a credit facility to be able to get these guys paid, because everyone wants to do this bullshit. And then I hate this shit, is that they want to come to you and say, hey, I need you to give me a break because my client won't pay for that.
Yeah.
Shit about your client. That's your business with your client. My business is with you.
Right.
And
agreed.
So I'll respect that and I'll pay you and talk about you, but I don't want to hear about how you're gonna only pay me every 60 days because Fox only pays every 60 days. That's not my fucking problem.
Yeah. And I think that right. And this is a conversation you and I have, and I've had with a lot of people, is that whatever terms you have with your client, that's between you and them. You're my client.
You better, of your lines of credit and all your stuff you have going on, you better have a receivable line of credit that can handle the load so that you can pay this industry because, well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And then you collect your money. So now what you do is you got your lines of credit, you bill out, you're heavy-handed, you're beating these guys up every day, thousands of phone calls, blah, 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 blah. And you get a big receivable. And then, I don't know, what's that poor guy in Chicago? I don't know his name. I don't want to mention it. I do know his name. He got sideways with EmpireCLS because he had a conversation about his concern about a $400,000 bill. And they cut him off. I mean, and they totally cut him off. There wasn't a phone call that said, dude, I know I owe you this money. You're one of my best guys. You've serviced my clientele wonderfully. I'm scared to death. I don't have the fucking money. I don't know where I'm going to get it from, but I'm thinking about you. That's better than what is going on now. And so the industry, I'm getting on a roll here. The industry needs to remember this fucking time. And it needs to not go past whatever financial threshold makes sense for your business. The minute you can't pay your bills because you're worried about getting money from a bigger limousine company or whoever you're doing business with, you're screwed. You got to get paid your money, and you pay your bills, and you maintain your solvency within your realistic expectation of financial solvency. But to bill people, and it screws it for people like you. And it screws it for people like Commonwealth. You know, somebody flippantly asked about,
oh my God,
has anyone heard from Commonwealth? And like, if there was ever a moment where they gave Dawson, you know, the saber and the crown, it was that moment after 200 comments of, you know, what are you fucking talking about? They pay their bills. Well, Dawson might just be the exception to what I'm saying. And he does it by specific performance.
Right.
But most of these guys don't.
Right.
And bill me. And hey, my client won't pay for this. My client won't pay for that. And
after the service is done.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, by the way, I don't do direct bill. I got like one billionaire that when he calls me, I direct bill because I'm too embarrassed to ask him for a credit card.
Okay.
But everybody else gets paid by credit card.
Yeah. I mean that's how we
need you a favor. If you need me to just get this done for you, just please tell me up front. I'm happy to be cool about it. But on a daily basis, I'm not interested in direct billing. It's the old way of doing business. You have to remember something. Let me tell you a little history here. Back in the 90s, everybody direct billed and nobody used credit card. And if you asked a client for the credit card, you were insulting him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Here's a commonplace. Now, finance, there's so many ways to get finance to pay your bills. There's so many outlets for cash. You don't need to direct bill somebody. It's almost like you're saying to them, hey, I'm going to fuck you. Send me a bill because over time, I'm going to fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, again, I want to bring up the point that, you know, there are a lot of big companies that pay perfectly fine in direct bill. You know, Commonwealth is one. I heard Boston Coach every 7 days you get a check from them. I mean, and Boston Coach is not a small company. I mean, I don't know their numbers. I don't know what their total sales are, but they're not small. You know, they're the likes of Commonwealth and, you know, probably in between Commonwealth and, you know, what's it called? EmpireCLS. But, you know, we're talking about taking care of the people that are the extension of your company. If you don't pay them and you go to your number two, the reason that person's your number two is because they're not your number one. So now you go to number two and number two says, hell yeah, I'm going to get the business. But then number two is going to start asking questions. And then you're going to go to number three. Now you've just lowered your tier of service to number three. So,
yeah. So, you know, not to belabor the point, you know, I'm sure you have other questions, but I'm just not a big believer in it. And if you can't pay your bill, you know, I think you got it. Listen, it was an unfortunate situation that's happened to everybody, and everybody's scared to death, and maybe you give everybody a pass because they're so freaked out because, like, listen, when I got indicted, it was just me.
Right.
It was like, you know, I screwed it up. But like in this situation, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's panic, man. Chicks are gaining weight, or men and women handle stress differently. All kinds of stupid shit's going on. maybe the guy at EmpireCLS didn't know how to say what to say. I have no idea.
Right.
But you got to communicate.
Right.
Communicate.
So we'll get off that subject, but last few questions. So I've asked kind of everybody that's in this industry, what are your thoughts of the future? What does the future look like for our industry? What's your opinion?
I would have had a different opinion a couple of days ago, but after unfortunately seeing these riots, which are a shame, just a damn shame, you know, I'm really upset with where we are as a culture in this country with regard to, you know, whites and blacks and all that kind of shit. I mean, at what point can we not just be people? You
right.
know? But interestingly enough, over the last 4 days, you haven't heard a word about the pandemic. Nothing in the media talks about the pandemic. Nothing in the media talks about the 100,000 lives that were lost. I'm not negating that. You know, God bless every one of them. But you know what? It doesn't take much to get everything going in a different spin. I don't know much about the media or the fake news or the president or who's going to be president. But I think if we can just kind of hold on, I think business is going to come right back to business as usual, and it might take us a little bit to get back to that freight train we were all on,
right?
At the limousine show. But I think I don't think there's going to be it's going to take a minute. There's no doubt about it. Listen, I'm not doing anything. My business is music entertainment. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I got lucky last month, and I had a music entertainer that did some big shit that resembled what they used to do.
Right.
We've been reduced to taking care of essential medical transport for heart and liver team transports from a Los Angeles-based limousine company that's good people, and they need a good guy in Vegas, and I'm grateful that they call me. Can he make the rent on it? No, but no, I think a guy a lot smarter than me told me that he really thought it would be about September when. I agree. I respect this guy a lot. He used to be chairman of ARIA in Las Vegas. He basically built the whole city center project, and he said you need to hold on to your hat until about September. So I'm optimistic. Not sure if I answered your question. I think
you did. No, because I believe the same thing.
Listen, this thing right here, right? Zoom or whatever we're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Man, I heard their stock went up, and it's all kinds of cool. I still think people want to get out of the house. They're going to get on airplanes. They're going to go see people. They're going to do business with them. It's the way we are. You know?
No, for sure. Well, Charlie, we're just shy of an hour, and I told you we were going to go 45 minutes, so we did pretty good. I want to thank you for jumping on this with me. To me, I think you are a person you could learn a lot from, all the goods and bads. And if somebody doesn't understand how to do that, that's their problem. I'll take advantage of it. I think I take advantage of your knowledge, and when I'm stuck with something, and you've entrusted me in getting my opinion on stuff. And I think it's important that rather than be divided, we should be united, because I think we're all going to need to find a way to get through this. And if we have enough support.
Right. And listen, before you let me go, I can be a pain in the ass. There's no doubt about it. But with me, it goes in one ear and out the other, and I piss for a second, and then I'm not. And that whole deal with Facebook yesterday was stupid. Scott Woodruff runs a fabulous company in Des Moines, Iowa, Majestic Limousine, and I'm hoping going to Lake of the Ozarks next week, and I'm hoping I can find a way to maybe get with them and have a sandwich and chop it up. So all good.
All shit happens. Life goes on. We got. There's more things to worry about than that Facebook comments, right? It's fucking stupid. Well, Charlie, love you, buddy. Thank you for being on here with us. Okay. If you guys want to get connected with Charlie, I'll put his contact information in the description. Other than that, tell the wife, Megan, hello for me, and I will see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for following, guys. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and all the social media. Bye.